Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm glad you are joining me for this. I really feel like this is a very important story to get out there, and I'm hoping that everybody will share this if you possibly can. These missing persons cases are pretty scary, especially when you have teenage daughters. They're scary regardless, but it really hits home when you also have a teenage daughter. So this story today is about a fairly recent missing persons case, and the person is named Corinna Slusser. The spelling on her name is Corinna. And Corinna would be 20 years old today, and I'm going to refer to her as in the present tense. I don't want to say was, because at this point we do not know what has happened with her. So if everybody will share this video when it's over, I really feel like all of the missing person cases that any channel covers needs as much attention as they can get. You never know if you're that one person who has seen this person and can really help a case. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you can share it, I would so appreciate if you did. So we're going to move with this now. Corinna is from Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. She grew up with just her single mother, who her dad was never really in the picture at all. She has a brother. He's a few years older than she is. And Corinna was a cheerleader, and she had a ton of friends. She was constantly on social media like most teenage girls are. She was into track. She was very into makeup. I'm going to show you some of her photographs and how stunning she was, and that makeup was flawless. She wanted to maybe go into cosmetology. She wasn't quite sure, but she had plans. She had plans for her life. And like most teenage girls, she also wanted something more. You know, she wanted other things. She wanted maybe a faster paced life. Who knows what goes on in the mind of a teenager? But what I can say is that she was close to her mom, and they did begin to grow apart. Around 2016-ish, Corinna's grades started really dropping, and she started acting differently. She was more rebellious. She wanted to do things that probably a girl her age shouldn't really be doing, but many of us have, you know, getting tattoos and drinking and staying out too late and talking back and wearing provocative clothing, all things that would really aggravate your mother very much. So while we know that 2016, Corinna began to change, things began to become stressful, 2017 was much worse. She was scheduled to move in with her aunt in January. Now, her aunt lives in Massachusetts, and they were very close. She would visit her all the time. She would come to her house all the time. You know, they had a very good relationship. However, Corinna's aunt had heard that Corinna was up to some things the last visit. I don't know what those things were, but she told her she could not go there. So unfortunately, that plan fell through. And then just a few short months later, Corinna tried to commit suicide, and she took 5,500 milligram acetaminophen tablets. Now that caused a lot of health scares with her liver and other things. She was also put into a psychiatric ward. She had a 24-hour around-the-clock nurse. And the reason I mention this, I will get into a little bit later. But when she came out, she did say the things that you would expect somebody to say. I'm going to get a job, I'm going to do better, all of this stuff. And a couple of months later, she moved in with a friend, about 30 minutes from her mother's home. Her mother wasn't very familiar with this friend, but Corinna was at the age where she could make this choice for herself. And her mom did tell her, unless you are working and in school, Corinna, you are not welcome back here. Now, their relationship was tense, but it's still a mother and a daughter, and her mother wanted nothing but the best for her child. Unfortunately, Corinna wanted something else, and in July of 2017, she ended up in New York City. And nobody's quite sure how that happened, but there she was. She was posting her apartment on her social media accounts and saying how happy she was. And just really strange that a girl who had really no job and no means to support herself was now living in New York in an 1,100 square foot apartment on her own. So, of course, her mother questioned this, and there were rumors that Corinna was doing something called dinner dates, where somebody would take her out and she would get paid for that, no sexual activity involved. It all seems very strange, but in August, her mother received some mail, and in that mail was a restraining order and a police report of what someone had done to her daughter. And there was this 32-year-old man who we believe was the one who lured her to New York. And I mentioned the 24-hour nurses to say that some people speculate she met him in the hospital. So we don't know if Corinna met this man in the hospital or not. Did he lure her from Pennsylvania to New York? Did he tell her he had work for her? Did he flatter her because she was obviously gorgeous? What did he do to get this girl to trust him? We don't know. What I do know is this man had an extensive record, and he had abused Corinna. Her mother got that report on 8/25. She called her. She tried to reason with her. And these girls will protect these men no matter what. And a few short days later, on the 9th of September, Corinna again talked to her mother because her grandfather had died and his funeral was in Florida. And Corinna said, you know, I'm going to do my best, but I have no ID, no social security card. And again, I am sure this man took those things from her because that is what they do. They make sure that you have no means to travel anywhere. She had no money. She had no ID. She had no social security card. There was no way she was making a train or a bus or anything else to get to Florida, and he made sure of that. And that was the last time her mother spoke to her. I don't even know how that feels. Corinna did post something on her Instagram in Brooklyn. There were a couple of random Twitter posts before this, but nothing since. Absolutely nothing. Someone came forward and said that they saw her at a seedy, disgusting motel called the Haven Budget Motel in Queens on Woodhaven Boulevard. And that's about 5 miles from LaGuardia Airport. And it's notorious for prostitution and crime and seedy things. And that's where she was seen last. Since then, Sabina has been contacted by scammers and been promised the return of her daughter or information leading to her daughter, and nothing has come through. The police have also been contacted, and they say, well, you know, she's probably been passed from pimp to pimp or trafficker to trafficker, and we don't know where she is anymore. And that's kind of how it goes in these cases, right? The police have so many cases on their hands, and one like Corinna's, where she's vanished into thin air. They kind of say, yes, we're working on it, but nothing ever comes of it until somebody in the public sees her and says something. And that's why I want to do these videos. That's why they're so important. Somebody has seen this girl. Now, her pimp is in jail currently, so we know she's not with him. And that leaves two options. He's handed her off and she's with other people. And one of the scammers that contacted Sabina said something about California and Russia. Now, if you know anything about human trafficking, they can hand anybody off. And Corinna is very young and gorgeous and quite able-bodied to do the things that they need her to do. So my personal opinion is she's still out there making money for them against her will. I don't want to give up hope and think that this pimp or anybody else has brought harm to this girl. But in talking to her mother, I could feel her heartbreak and feel her doubt. Because wouldn't you hold out hope every day thinking she'll get to a phone, she'll be able to call me? But I mean, there have been famous cases where women have been held for years upon years upon years. And finally they break free. And finally they're able to get to a phone. And I am praying that for Corinna. I am praying that for her. That somebody just has her. And she's able to reach out to her mother. If you have seen this girl anywhere, I'm going to try to post pictures with darker hair, you know, dressed scantily, dressed appropriately. Every different view that I can give you of her. So maybe that'll trigger something in you to say, hey, wait, I've seen her. And I know our heads are in our phones most of the time and we mind our business, but this is somebody's baby. And she deserves to come home. Even if she made this decision, even if she thought, I could do this a couple of times and make some money. Whatever is happening to her now, we know is not her choice. She would have at least reached out to her mother. Her mother has plastered this everywhere. She knows how worried her mother is. And I truly believe if she wasn't being held, she would have reached out by now. So please just keep your eyes open, especially in New York and in California and everywhere that we know there have been human trafficking victims recently in the news. Just look around. And if you ever hear anything, I'm going to put the numbers on the screen to where you can call. And I will be updating this again. And today, Sabina's mother is in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I was supposed to join her today, but I really wanted to get this video done for her. And she's marching for her daughter. They had a walk today, and for all of the other victims out there. So if you can help, please do.